Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, y'all are having a wonderful day today. So, when it comes down to it, I thought, of course, that I would review this little video that was, I believe, released by that of DontaesBoxingNation. It's going to be a short little clip. I just thought that it was very particularly interesting. I tried to find this particular one on that of FightHub.com because I believe that I've seen the same interview on that of FightHub.com. But of course, Dante, he always has his little interesting narratives as well. So I just thought that I would review this. But of course, for those of you that don't know the boxing news by now, David Benavidez and Demetrius Andrade, who of course are both looked at as two of the biggest boogeymen and avoided fighters and all that of boxing, they're having a colossal matchup between the two of them, of course. I think in the latter part of November. I don't remember exactly when the date is. Maybe November 25th, 26th, somewhere around there. But when it comes down to it, this is going to be a phenomenal fight. This is a fight that truly that I can't wait for. Maybe it's in December, but I'm pretty sure that this fight happens next month in November. It is going to be a clash of the styles. It also is going to be a fight between, in my opinion, two fighters that, of course, not everyone would be willing to step in the ring with. And, of course, Canelo Alvarez. A lot of people point the fingers at Canelo Alvarez and say that he's avoided these two men for years. Well, I think that you can say that perhaps he's not been interested in the Demetrius Andrade fight, and that's been a fighter perhaps that, maybe he's avoided to a degree, or that overall that Canelo's had no interest in Andrade. And to a degree, I understand, because Demetrius Andrade, when it comes down to it, even though he is a decently talented fighter, the problem has always been with Andrade is that he's just been a little bit too much risk for his potential reward. And I don't think that Andrade has ever fully understood that. Unfortunately, he has not been able to get a whole lot of fights. Sometimes because of his own doing, also in my view, staying with Top Rank for a little bit too long. Also, at times, not taking certain fights when he could have, or going after certain people. And a lot of these fighters, they think that they're just going to get the big fish like Canelo Alvarez or Gennady Golovkin or whoever the big cheese is, whoever the big fish is at the time, just by repeatedly calling them out and embarrassing them. And that's just not always going to happen. In order to do that, you need to build yourself up pretty much from the bootstraps up. And what you need to do is that you pretty much need to go from, a higher opponent to a higher level opponent. Or at times, unfortunately, you're just going to have to force yourself into a corner and take a certain fight that you may not want to take. And we've seen this with certain other fighters. Guillermo Rigondeaux had to face Vasily Lomachenko because almost nobody wanted to face him in his weight class, whether it was Carl Frampton or Leo Santa Cruz or a certain amount of other fighters. We've seen it a little bit, with, some other fighters that I can potentially name at the moment, But there's, a few other ducked fighters, of course, or avoided fighters throughout history that, of course, they had a, somewhat of a similar fate. But anyways, the topic, of course, of this video is that Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade, because David Benavidez apparently stated in an interview, or at least certainly one of the interviewers said that David Benavidez stated that Demetrius Andrade looked scared, in his opinion, either in the press conference or, when they were exchanging words. And I'm not going to say that Demetrius Andrade, just from my viewing, I'm not going to say that he's necessarily shaking in his boots, but I do think that Demetrius Andrade realizes that when he goes on this journey or when he goes on this quest, there's about a 50-50 chance that he may not be able to come back out of this one alive. And when I say that one overall, it's almost like that of the Lord of the Rings quest. They sent Frollo and they sent Sam, on that mission, to put the ring into the fires of Mordor, when it came down to it, to destroy the ring. But everyone else around them, even though they tried to instill confidence within them, they knew that there was still a very slim chance of that mission happening and being successful. And I think that Demetrius Andrade, that I think he still has confidence within himself. And I think that Andrade thinks that, he does have a certain amount of holes in his game. And if there is a guy that can defeat him, it probably would be me. But make no mistake about it, do I think that Andrade is as confident as what he looks in other fights? No, I don't. So do I think that there is a little bit of a twinge of fear or a little bit of doubt in Andrade's mind? I certainly do. And it appears from David Benavidez that he doesn't really have any doubt. But of course, that doesn't always mean that you're going to win the fight. Sometimes being a little bit more fearful to a healthy, respect, to a healthy degree means that you could fight a little bit more intelligently, or that you're going to have to do what you're going to have to do. And who knows, maybe David Benavidez may underestimate Andrade. I don't see him doing that because I think David Benavidez has enough respect for Andrade's skill set to know what he brings to the table and also what lies underneath, if he ends up beating Andrade, which is, of course, that of a Canelo Alvarez title shot, which is the fight that both of them have been looking for a while now. So, it is what it is. But anyways, let's get straight into the video. Let's see what they have to say.
I look at fear as my friend. I don't look at it as my enemy. I look at it to be able to give me that instinct. If I didn't have it, I'd walk in the front of the street and get ran over by a car, walk in front of a train, or jump off a building. And those instincts of fear helps me rise to my highest potential. It keeps me sharp, keeps me fast, keeps me alert.
Now you notice that DontaesBoxingNation, and he'll play a video at times when he wants to set a certain tone of a message. You notice that in the beginning of that video, he played the Mike Tyson quote where Mike Tyson, stated that fear is necessary, to basically make this look better on Demetrius Andrade. And what that tells me is that DontaesBoxingNation also believes that Demetrius Andrade has a little bit of a twinge of fear as well. Because why would you put that in there? Because when it comes to other fighters allegedly being scared of another fighter, DontaesBoxingNation never posts anything like that. So what that tells me is that Dante is trying to put Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade in a better light. And make no mistake about it, DontaesBoxingNation is going to root for Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade in this fight. He can pretend that he likes David Benavidez all he wants. But at the end of the day, David Benavidez is not a black American fighter. He is going to be cheering for Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade. Don't let him fool you. He states all this bullshit about, oh, I cheer for America. Both David Benavidez and Andrade are American fighters. I guarantee you, and he's already showing you with this video, he is not saying overall, oh, well, I don't care who wins this fight because they're both American fighters. Bullshit. He's cheering for Demetrius Andrade. And cool. At the end of the day, if you cheer for your own demographic, I have no problem with that whatsoever. But don't get on this bullshit about how, oh, I cheer for my American fighters. No, you don't. You cheer for the black or the black American fighters. And listen, at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with that. The thing is about Dante, though, that always rubs me the wrong way, or the reason why I like to commentate on his videos, is that a lot of the times he's trying to weasel in a lot of these bullshit narratives and double standards, a lot of the times which makes no damn sense. And he tears down certain fighters that he does not like, and he tries to degrade them as great fighters, But anyways, let's continue. Very interesting that Andrade seemed playful with that of David Benavidez. Now, maybe Andrade has been more playful than some of the guys in the past, but I don't ever remember Andrade being super playful with any of his opponents. So once again, that goes to show you that Andrade, he's saying that, oh, David Benavidez, he has a lot of holes and all sort of stuff. Make no mistake about it. Andrade knows the threat that David Benavidez is with him in the ring. And like I said, Andrade already knows that there's a possible chance that he may not be able to come out of this fight as the winner. Excuse me. But he basically has no choice because Demetrius Andrade, I believe, is 36 years old right now, going on 37. And the only way for him to probably be remembered as an all-time great fighter is if he beats both David Benavidez and that of Canelo Alvarez. But a lot of fighters right now, probably including that of Canelo Alvarez, are probably a little bit happy that Andrade is facing that of David Benavidez, because I think Canelo always would have preferred to fight that of David Benavidez. And I never agreed with the narrative of, oh, Canelo Alvarez is just avoiding and dodging all these fighters. I never agreed with that because Canelo Alvarez, once again, he has way too many A-grade level names on his resume, including black fighters, for me to ever say that he's just avoided dozens upon dozens of names. It's just never made any sense. But the one fighter that I do think that Canelo never truly wanted to meet in the ring because he was a little bit too much risk for his reward was that of Demetrius Andrade, and to a degree, I get it, But of course, if Andre does end up winning this fight, Canelo Alvarez will have no choice. So whoever is the winner of this fight, Canelo is not going to have any choice. But I always think that Canelo was eventually going to face that of David Benavidez. I just think that he was going to take it whenever it was worth his time. And of course, if David Benavidez is going to beat Demetrius Andrade in this fight, which in my view is more than likely the likely option, then I think Canelo Alvarez will see that fight very justly fit. He might take one more fight before taking the David Benavidez fight, but Canelo knows that the David Benavidez fight, especially if he wins this fight, is going to have to be one of his next 2 fights.
One of the best talkers in boxing. You're very witty. And I told David before, how is he going to respond when you talk shit to him? You were very entertaining up there, but I didn't see the full fire. I thought you were going to come and...
I mean, at the end of the day, I have never been like that. So, as things develop, I'm going to see him more.
Well, I would have to see you in other press conferences. I'm not so sure about that because Andrade at times has been a little bit of a shit talker. I don't know. I'm not quite sure if I can agree with that. Now, to be fair, I haven't watched many of his press conferences, but it's just interesting because I don't know if I've seen quite that same energy, with other fighters either. But maybe Andrade, maybe he just isn't as much of a shit talker as, what I thought he was. We'll see.
And we get the shit talking. He's not talking shit, so I don't understand.
You don't bring it out.
No, I'm saying like this. What shit we talk about? We want to be like fuck you.
And I always say that, and that was Elie Seckbach, of course, for those of you that do not know him, who I've never really been a huge fan of either in terms of some of the narratives or some of the interviews that he does. But he is a boxing reporter. He pretty much loves to nut hug. That of the Garcia gym with Robert Garcia and Mikey Garcia. But, it is what it is. It's all good. Cool that, of course, he can get, great interviews with those fighters. But anyways, when it comes down to it, even Elie Seckbach, I think, realized a little bit that Andrade's demeanor was not what he expected. And I always tell people this. A lot of people, when they take a look at it, they're like, oh, well, why are you guys so worried that he's quiet? Why are you guys so worried overall that this and that, that he's talking a whole lot, or, he's talking a whole lot, so he must be scared. Like a lot of people, especially Deontay Wilder fans, were saying that about Tyson Fury, that Tyson Fury was afraid of Deontay Wilder because he was just talking way too much. That's Tyson Fury's character. And I always told people this. When you take a look at a person like a Conor McGregor or a Tyson Fury or whoever the hell it may be, and they talk a lot of shit on regular, and they're just doing pretty much what they regularly do, that just means that they're pretty much in the flow of things, and that they're just pretty much trying to get in your head. Now, when a trash talker even takes it to a level further and is trying to get very personal, like what Conor McGregor was doing against Khabib Nurmagomedov, then that kind of gives me the red flag a little bit of saying, okay, he's changing his demeanor a little bit. Or when a trash talker all of a sudden becomes very quiet, or a guy that's very quiet all of a sudden becomes a trash talker, what that means is that their demeanor is shaken up a little bit, and they believe more than likely that in order for them to win the fight, it isn't just going to be their skills that is going to pay the bills for this fight. There's also going to have to be an external factor, a mental factor. Well, that's what that tells me. And don't get me wrong, fighters, they of course, they try to win, the fight before the fight. But once again, when someone's demeanor changes, that's when I start to get a little bit worried, because it's like, okay, he knows that this dude, that he's very dangerous. And Andrade, according to me anyway, his demeanor has changed a little bit. But we'll see. Maybe he's just not as big of a trash talker as once upon a time as what I thought he was.
Hospital.
But all I'm saying is that every time I've seen Andrade in the room with another, decently great fighter or another top contender, whether it be Billy Joe Saunders, the Charlo brothers, Canelo, a lot of those other guys, he's usually talking a hell of a lot of shit. So the fact that he's in this fight with David Benavidez and, he's not talking as much, it is a little bit interesting.
Ambulance, knock you out.
Yeah, because Demetrius,
Read that.
Demetrius, he tried to say like he saw you were scared at the face-off. Benavidez said that.
I was scared?
Yeah, that's what he was saying. Yeah.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
I mean, Yeah, get me scared because I'm going to be more dangerous. Get me scared, yes. I want to be scared. Get me scared because the scarier I am, the more dangerous I'm going to be. The more I'm going to want to protect myself. The more I'm going to want to throw punches. The more I'm going to want to get in there and show you what I have in store. So, yeah, do that. But as you see when he fought Caleb Plant was able to maneuver, do his thing. Plant's not the hottest hitter. He wasn't in the best condition.
I don't believe that Plant is the hardest hitter either. But to be quite honest with you, Mr. Demetrius Andrade, I don't think you're the hardest hitter. and to be honest with you, I don't know if there's going to be much of a difference between Demetrius Andrade's power and that of Caleb Plant's power. Now, I could be wrong, but I've just never taken a look at Andrade and said, wow, he just has one-shot knockout power. You know, it might be possible that he has a tinge more power than Caleb Plant, but if his power is that much more impressive than that of Caleb Plant's, I'd be a little bit surprised. Now, his power might be more impactful on David Benavidez just because, you know, possibly he might be more accurate and he might be willing to exchange with him a little bit more. Who knows? Well, we'll see.
And I don't think for that fight, but he showed what little exposure.
David Benavidez has already said in an interview, and I already reviewed this about that at FightHub.com or FightHype.com. He doesn't see much of a difference between that of Caleb Plant or Demetrius Andrade. I think Andrade is probably the little bit of the smarter fighter than that of Caleb Plant. But to be honest with you, do I think that Andrade is that much of a better athlete than Caleb Plant, if at all? No, not really.
What it take to continue to beat David Benavidez and keep him at bay.
Demetrius
stand on that vein. Tim Bradley.
Demetrius Andrade, no doubt about it. He's going to be mainly on the back foot. He's going to be trying to move laterally and circle around David Benavidez. And he's going to be trying to lay David Benavidez for traps. And it is going to be very interesting to see how David Benavidez is going to react to that. Because I don't think he's going to be fighting a fighter quite yet in his career that's quite as crafty as what Demetrius Andrade is. And if there is a type of style to beat David Benavidez, it could potentially be Demetrius Andrade. Now, in my view, the main type of style to beat David Benavidez is someone like Canelo. Someone that not only can move in and outside of the range, but someone that also can bully David Benavidez or give it to him just as much as what he's going to give. Because David Benavidez, in my view, he's a bully fighter. You know, so ironically, they use Mike Tyson in the beginning of that promo. Well, Mike Tyson and David Benavidez, they come from the same mold. They love to come for, they love to put they love for their opponents to be cruising for a bruise, and they love to put pain, both mentally and physically, on their opponents. But what's going to happen when all of a sudden that fighter shows resistance and shows that they're not just going to be broken down the whole entire time? Can David Benavidez at times fight on the back foot? I'm not sure if he can. In my view, David Benavidez does not have the best of feet. He does not have elite head movement. He even doesn't have A-plus level power. I think he has more power than, Demetrius Andrade, but he's supposed to because, and that's also another thing once again. And Andrade, in my view, looks like he could easily fit at 168, but Benavidez is not a natural 168 pounder. Like, that dude is a legit light heavyweight fighter and one day could even easily fight at the cruiserweight division. Like, David Benavidez, I have no doubt about it, is sometimes rehydrating at about 200 pounds or somewhere around there, or at least walking around there.
And Bradley mentioned that there was holes in David Benavidez's game for you to exploit. When you see those holes,
I definitely think that there's holes as well, and I think that there's a multitude of holes. I don't think that he has the best of head movement. His defense is a little bit leaky, even though it's gotten better. He does not have good feet. When it comes down to it, and I'm not quite sure how well he's going to be on the back foot. That being said, I'm not sure if Demetrius Andrade has the level of power nor the boxing level of finesse, I could be wrong, to really, really put David Benavidez in his place. I think that in order to put David Benavidez in his place, not only do you have to be exceptionally good at your boxing ability, but on top of that, you have to have very good power. Because David Benavidez, in my view, he doesn't have A-plus level power, but it's probably around the A- to A grade level to where, he can hurt you with a couple of good shots early on in the fight. And eventually, once it just keeps taking its toll, it's hard to get out of that cycle.
And watched him at home. Is that what made you really want to jump back fighting him?
I want to fight everybody. I I want to fight everybody. Whatever opportunities I can get, I'll take them. If I could get any of these guys back then, I would have done them back then. But at the end of the day, David is willing to take the fight. I'm willing to take the fight. So the answer is always yes on my side. I have never said no to any of them. It's just now's the time. I'm a free agent as far as not signed to nobody. And I got myself in this position to be able to come over anywhere and make the best fights happen. That's it.
Where will the win?
I need to know if if people around Rhode Island, because I believe that's where Demetrius Andrade is from, Rhode Island. I need to know if people around Rhode Island talk like this dude. Because every single time I watch Demetrius Andrade, the dude always talks like he was never never given, proper speech classes or something like that, or that he was never, told how to talk properly. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's pretty decently sharp in his responses, but every time I hear this man, he's like that one person, overall that you knew in school that kind of had overall, like that weird, accent, or like that weird thing where they talked a little bit, like baby talk. Every time I hear Demetrius Andrade talk, it's always about Charwo, or always about David Benavidez or something like that. It's like, damn.
Where will the win against Benavidez place you on the pound-for-pound list?
Number one.
Are you counterpunching?
I mean, fuck the pound list, but I'm just saying, I don't care about none of that. The number one in the world.
Now, that reporter right there was one of Dantes and Aki TV's reporters when it came down to it, and he immediately said, where would this put you on the pound-for-pound list? Well, we need to talk about if this will put Demetrius Andrade on the pound-for-pound list at all. Because according to DontaesBoxingNation and Aki TV, if Canelo, and these are their own words, if Canelo was going to beat that of Jamal Charlo, it would have not put him any higher on the pound-for-pound list. And I don't ever remember them saying that if Canelo was beating Demetrius Bivol, that it would have ranked him higher on the pound-for-pound list. So if we're going by those standards, then Demetrius Andrade should not make the top 10 pound-for-pound list, because David Benavidez is not even a champion at the current moment in time. Now, being more logical and not going by those bullshit standards when it comes down to it, and some of the things that I mentioned are, probably a bit logical. I'm not quite sure if the winner of this fight would make my top 10 pound-for-pound list. I don't think that they would. Of course, it would mean more for Demetrius Andrade if he beat that of David Benavidez. But, when it comes down to it, I just don't know if he would make my top 10 pound-for-pound list. I just think that there's too many fighters that already have better resumes than Andrade. It really would be the only, and I mean only, decent win on his resume when it comes down to it. And, excuse me, when you have fighters out there like, and we're talking about the bottom of the top 10 pound-for-pound list, when you have fighters like Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson, Demetrius Bivol, Artur Beterbiev, that of Teofimo Lopez, who recently got a win over Josh Taylor. And then, of course, you got the top 5, like that of Canelo, Tyson Fury, Crawford, Usyk, in a way. He definitely wouldn't make my top 5 if he just ended up getting this win. But I'm not quite sure if he would make my top 10 either, But I understand certain people that would argue it. He just wouldn't be on my top 10, because I would just need to see a little bit more. But, of course, if he was able to defeat David Benavidez and then in the next fight defeat that of Canelo Alvarez, of course, that would clearly make him one of the top, probably 5 pound-for-pound fighters in the world. No doubt about it.
This is what this fight brings.
Are you counterpunching through those holes that you see?
I'm going to do everything.
Where is your dad?
Let me tell you guys about East.
But anyways, that's pretty much about it. But Andrade says, I'm going to do everything. Well, that's going to be revealed November. And I have no doubt about it that Andrade's going to try. But Benavidez is going to be bigger. No doubt about it, at least by one weight class when it comes down to it. And on top of that, I'm not quite sure if Andrade was ever as talented as what a lot of his fan base was trying to let on anyway. That's always just been my opinion. Don't get me wrong, that's not me saying that he's not talented. He is very talented. But I've never seen this guy that was just flawless. I've never seen this guy that was clearly hands down the most talented 154-pounder or 160-pounder. I just never truly seen it, just in my personal view. That doesn't mean that I don't think that he's talented. But, being the most talented in whatever weight division that he's been in, I'm just not sure if I've ever seen Andrade on that level. But I could be wrong. And this fight is his opportunity to prove me wrong. So once again, it's going to be a very interesting fight. I'm going to really love this fight for a multitude of reasons. Because there's going to be a lot on the line really for both of them. Because whoever the loser is of this fight, it's going to set them back majorly. If David Benavidez ends up losing this fight, I promise you his career is never going to be the same again. And there's a possibility that we may not even hear much from David Benavidez anymore, because unless it's a super duper close fight, and even if it is, David Benavidez cannot lose this fight. Because if he ends up losing this fight, he immediately loses the Canelo Alvarez fight. But on top of that, when it comes down to it, where does he really go from there? Because I'm sure that he's already probably struggling a little bit to make 168 pounds. Do you really want to still stay there against a Demetrius Andrade that just beat you potentially, or, against the Canelo Alvarez? I mean, I'm sure that he wants to rematch, but at the end of the day, if Andrade is dominant in this fight, I would not favor David Benavidez to beat Andrade in a rematch if that ends up happening. And that would mean that he would potentially probably have to go up to 175 pounds, where there's fighters like Artur Beterbiev and Dimitri Bivol and other fighters like that. And I've already told people this. I would not favor David Benavidez in those two fights in the light heavyweight division, because both of those fighters are better than what he is. It just is what it is. And on top of that, they're more powerful. They're greater athletes than what David Benavidez is. Just my personal view. If Andrade ends up losing this fight, his career is pretty much over right there. Because I don't see any fighter that was really super duper trying to jump into the ring with Andrade in the first place. And on top of that, if he ends up losing this fight, what value is he really going to have going forward? I mean, certain fighters like, who knows, maybe Munguia, although I doubt it, or certain other up-and-coming fighters that need a very decent name on their resume. Maybe Janabek, he might try to fight him because, he needs to prove himself. But other than that, like, who else is really going to get in the ring with Andrade? Like, no one wants to get in the ring with Andrade in the first place. Once again, like I said, he's a little bit too much risk for his reward, and on top of that, you just lost. Like, who really is going to be fighting you? What they're pretty much going to do is that they're just going to sit and wait and age you out. You might get one or two big fights, maybe in a year or two, or possibly you're not the same fighter after that loss. And on top of that, you're a bit older, so you're shaking up a little bit. And unfortunately, that is probably going to be the end of Demetrius Andrade. And some of that is not his fault. Some of it is. Unfortunately, that's just the game of boxing. Certain fighters just end up like that. I also believe that had Andrade took a little bit of a different approach in his career and tried to go after fighters like Danny Jacobs and, maybe David Benavidez a bit earlier, or other certain fighters like that, that perhaps his career, maybe could have ended up a little bit different, or took in the Jamel Charlo fight early on in his career, even though I understand that he believes that he was getting peanuts. But at the end of the day, that was a fight that could have done great wonders for your career. And I think that had Andrade seen, that maybe taking that fight, no matter the money, would have been worth it for his career if he truly believed that he was going to win that fight, that his career could have ended up different, but we'll see. But anyways, that's pretty much about it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see where this goes. I'm very excited for this fight. This has been a great year for boxing. So that's pretty much about it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you all later.